Hi there. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this with us today. Again, we are the Bonham Group. We're going to go through this quick video, and we know you have a lot of options out there, a lot of people that are in the real estate business, and we just feel honored that you're taking this opportunity to review how we do business. We feel it's a different way of doing business. As you may know from our previous conversations, we like to take kind of a two-step listing approach, and that is we're going to share with you everything we do up front, our philosophy, how we market the homes, how we position the home, and what we've done over our combined 50-ish years in this business to really get the most and best results for our clients. We've actually sold close to 2,500 homes in that time period. So we feel like we've dialed in pretty well. So we want to share that with you now. And then if you feel like at that point in time, after watching this video, that we are a good fit for you, that our values and philosophies align with yours, and you see that we will be able to provide the tools to get you to the finish line of getting your home sold, then we'll come out, we'll do that final walkthrough, and really all we have to do at that point in time is agree on the pricing strategy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, thank you for taking the time today. What's going to happen after this conversation is really one of three things are going to happen. The first is you might hear what we have to say, you absolutely love it, and you're going to list your home with us. That's awesome. That's what we'd love to see happen here. The second thing that may happen is for some reason we don't explain our value proposition very well and we don't answer all of your questions, and you may decide not to list your home with us. And the third thing that may happen is after we go through some further conversation, we may decide not to list your house. Now, some people ask me, why would I not list your house? Well, the reason being is, quite frankly, is we may uncover some goals or expectations that you may have for this process that we feel like, honestly, we are just unable to meet. And we would rather be a professional and let you down now rather than take your business and let you down later whenever those goals are not met. So I hope that makes sense. So let me ask you, have you ever eaten at an amazing restaurant? I'm sure you have, right? Think about it. Think about the name of a restaurant you've eaten at that you absolutely loved. Go back in time in that and think about what was it that made your experience so special. Was it just the food? Was it just the ambiance? Was it the caliber of service and attention that you received from the wait staff, from the maitre d', from the chef, from the owner, whatever it was? And when you had that amazing experience, did you recommend that restaurant to people you know? Well, I can guarantee you did, right? So it's because it made you feel something special, made you feel like you were taken care of at a high level. And our goal in this real estate journey is that by delivering similar world-class customer service, that you will provide referrals to us. As a matter of fact, we hope that we are doing such a great job to this journey that you give us at least 2 referrals of people you know looking to buy or sell real estate before our transaction even comes to an end. And the reason we say that is you may think, well, I'm not going to know 2 people that are going to buy or sell. You'll be surprised, because what happens is there's a thing called the reticular activator syndrome. And that basically says whatever you're thinking about at any particular given point in time, you notice everywhere. But once you're not thinking about it, you don't. A good example is when you're looking at buying a new car. You may say, you know what, I really want to get that metallic silver, Mercedes that's out there right now. And next thing you know, you start seeing it everywhere, whereas before you hadn't really noticed it as much. The same thing happened when my wife was expecting our daughter. All of a sudden, she started seeing pregnant women everywhere, right? But then what's interesting is after you go through the end of that journey, after you've gotten the car or after my wife had the baby, it was not on the radar as much. And the same thing happens with home buying and home selling. So during this home buying and home selling process, your ears, your radar is going to be turned on more than it ever is at any other time in your life. So you're going to notice more people talking about buying or selling real estate. It's not unusual for you to come across 2, 3, or even 4 people. And all we ask is that if we're doing a great job, will you introduce us to them? Because we'd love to have the opportunity to make sure that they're getting the kind of level of service that they deserve, just as that we are delivering to you. So I hope that makes sense. So that's our goal, at least 2 referrals before this transaction even comes to an end. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, we have a 6 steps to sold home selling system. This has really been refined over the years, but we've also tried to simplify it to where everybody can understand it and wrap their head around it. And then each step has subsystems to it. So the first one is we're going to do an in-depth seller needs analysis. Next, we'll talk about the volume maximizer property diagnosis. Third, we're going to do a deep dive market absorption study. Fourth, property preparation and positioning. 5, the Bonham Group's MSFA cycle completion. And finally, the expert negotiation and contract to close system execution. Now, as I said earlier, this is the method that we've refined over these last 50 years of combined experience that's allowed us to sell nearly 2,500 homes. The great thing about this process is it is a proven method for any home in any market. It doesn't matter if your home's a fixer-upper or if it's luxury. It doesn't matter if we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. We follow this process every single step of the way to make sure that we position your home properly to get the maximum value for it in the right time. So step 1 is our in-depth seller analysis. Here are the questions we're going to be asking you as we go through our interview process, but I want you to think about this. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not desirable at all and 10 being extremely desirable, what one thing has to happen in this transaction for your experience to be a 10? And then I want to know what is important about that to you, right? So a lot of people say, well, get my home sold. Great. What's important about that to you? Why are you selling your home? What's the motivator behind it, right? And then the next question is going to be, if we could add one more thing, what has to happen for your experience to be a 10 plus? It may be a dollar amount. It may be a timeline. It may be the least amount of hassle. It may be any of these things that are important to you, right? But I want to know then, beyond that, what is important about it to you? So if you tell me the most amount of money, great. What's important about it? And then finally, the third thing is, what can we do here at the Bonham Group to make it a 10 plus plus? What would that look like? We get your 10, we get your 10 plus, and we add another thing, we get a 10 plus plus. And what is important about it to you? And I want you to think about these 3 things and write them down, because I'm going to ask you to share them with me. And I want to know what it is. And of those 3, then we're going to narrow it down. If we had to choose, which we hope we don't have to, but if we have to choose, what is the absolute most important thing about this process to you? Finally, one thing that we pride ourselves on in this in-depth seller analysis is communication. We believe that this is a short-term partnership. It's not just us helping you sell your house. This really is a partnership. We need to communicate at a high level with one another, but communication and good communication means something different to everybody. So what I want to know is, how do we win with you, right? What is it that our processes and our style, what is it that you're going to appreciate about the way we communicate with you, to where at the end of the transaction, you look back and you say, wow, Jeff, you guys did this. You were really great at being honest, being transparent, about talking to me every week with updates, right? Whatever it may be, I want to know how we win with you. And on the opposite side of that, I need to know how we lose. What are the turnoffs? What are the things that you don't appreciate? And also, even within this, what is it that is your preferred style of communication? Do you prefer a phone call? Do you prefer a text? Do you prefer an email? Who all within the household needs to be on that thread of communication? Right? Is there one person that's the decision maker where it all needs to run through? Is it a group decision? We need to understand all of these things, because we want to serve you how you want to be served. The next thing is, what do you feel like you have the right to expect from me as your real estate consultant? What do you have the right to expect out of the Bonham Group? If you've bought or sold a home, you probably have had some experiences that weigh in on this answer, right? But I would like to hear what those are, and I want to make sure that I feel comfortable meeting those expectations. And then finally, is I want you to think about, what does my team have the right to expect from you as our client? Again, we believe this is a partnership, right? Even though we are hired and you're going to hire us to be your representative, again, communication and partnership and being on the same page is critical. So what do you feel like we have the right to expect from you as our client? So start thinking about these last 2 pages. What would it take to be a 10 plus, and a 10 plus plus, and what's really important about each of those to you? Then how do we win with you and how do we lose with you? What do you feel like you have the right to expect from us as your real estate consultant? And finally, what do you feel like we have the right to expect from you as our client? So that's step one. That's the in-depth seller analysis. And we have found if we do not take the time to go through this, we're more likely to face bumps in the road along the way and jeopardize our relationship. Beyond the sale of the house, it's about the relationship. 90% of our business comes from repeat and referral business. And we have found that if we start out on the right foot here, we can basically handle anything because there are likely going to be some bumps, whether it's during repair negotiations or appraisal issues or financing issues or whatever it may be. There are going to be some difficult conversations along the way, more likely than not. And if we set the tone properly with our style and approach to this, we feel like we can work through just about anything because we become a team. We are that partnership because we're on the same side of this journal as you are. So that's step one. Step two is the value maximizer property diagnosis. We're going to go through step by step every part of your property. Once you've agreed that this feels like a good fit to you, we're going to come visit your property in person. We're going to walk through it. We're going to make notes about, is it in excellent shape? Is it in okay shape? Is it in poor shape? We're going to talk about anything that's included. We're going to talk about any red flags. These sometimes are difficult conversations because maybe you have a lot of pet odors, or maybe you tend to cook with very fragrant spices that sometimes can get into the walls or into the carpeting, the smells that can last, that as homeowners, I get it, we don't notice. I mean, I've got a dog, right? And I bet that anybody that comes to my house is going to notice my dog, but I don't notice it because I live there all the time, right? Does that make sense? But when it comes to selling a home, we need to position and we need to talk about removing those odors. We need to talk about making sure that all of the different areas of the house present themselves well, right? We need to understand exactly what appliances convey in the process. And then we'll talk about, as we have this open and transparent conversation with you about how to maximize the value, then it's ultimately your decision as to what step to take. But understand, we're trying to show you exactly what it takes to get the most amount of money. But it doesn't mean you want to go through all those processes. You may be willing to take a lower sales price to not have to do some of these items, and that's okay. We'll talk with you about those strategies as well. But the whole purpose of this is make sure that based on these conditions, we communicate very clearly exactly what it's going to take to you. So there's never any question as to why am I not getting this price, or why is everybody coming in lower, or what kind of feedback am I going to get with you? We're going to ask permission kind of on that similar scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being I'm not honest with you at all and 10 being brutally honest. I'm going to ask permission to be a 10 with you because this is an important piece of the equation, and I want to be able to talk candidly with you about it. This is not about trying to hurt your feelings or anything like that. This is really about what we've got to do to take your property, position it well, and make sure that we get the most amount of money possible for you so that you can get the most money in exchange at the end of the deal. So we'll go through that. Once you feel like we're a good fit, we'll come out and do this walkthrough with you. And then before we come and do our walkthrough, we're going to do a deep dive market absorption analysis. Now, this is different than a standard, what a lot of realtors use called just a comparative market analysis. Comparative market analysis usually use 2 or 3 quick little comparables. That's about it. And they try to come down with the value. We don't do that. We really analyze the pricing to make sure we generate the most activity from both agents and buyers, because the most eyeballs ultimately drive the most price. Because pricing your property too high may make it necessary over time to drop it below market value just to compete with new things that come on the market. One thing about this market is that realtors are historically a little bit ADD, and we tend to pay attention to new properties more so than properties that have been on the market for 30 days because we look at everything, the hot sheet every day, what's coming on, does it meet my client's needs? If not, we're kind of, unfortunately, a lot of times we put it out of our mind. So we've got really this main first impression to make here in the marketplace when we first go live with your listing. So market value is going to get about 60% of all possible eyeballs on it. And that's really what we want to be at, is really making sure we dial it in at market value. The deep dive market absorption analysis, one thing I want you to understand is that as we go through this, it's numbers, right? It's positioning, it's research. What it does not determine your values. It doesn't matter what you paid for the house. Doesn't matter what you need for it, what you want. Doesn't matter what your neighbor says your house is worth. Doesn't matter what another agent says it's worth. And it doesn't matter how much it costs to rebuild today. The truth of the matter is that buyers and sellers determine the value. What we do is we do this deep dive market analysis to get us the best position and the best research to get us to that value as close as possible. But I want you to understand at the end of the day, your property is a commodity. It's like a stock. The market determines the value, not us. So we're going to put it somewhere, and then we've got to make sure that we're willing to understand what the market is telling us and make decisions going forward from that. In a seller's market, what happens is as it's closing up, we can price your home, right there where it wants to get. If we price a little bit ahead and the market is going up, that's okay. It'll catch up if you have the time for it to catch up, right? That's one thing. Do you have the time? In a buyer's market, if you don't price it ahead of the market, you always need to price it ahead, right? If you want to get the best value. So we may be somewhere right around here today. And if we are, if the value today says right here, we may price it just a little bit higher, right? Same thing with the buyer's market. You may want to price it a little bit lower just because by the time it goes live, next thing you know, if you don't, you're always trying to play catch up and you're making an adjustment after 30 days, let's say, but the market's already moved down. And you're always playing this catch up and you never end up with the price you want. So that's the buyer's market deep dive analysis. Now, in this situation here, length of time on market versus price, this is just saying basically you don't want to get stagnant. The buying market has a short attention span. Even in a seller's market, it's because every day they're only looking at new properties. If you don't price it right, you're forgotten about. And in a buyer's market, the longer you sit, people start to question what's going on with it. So either way, we need to make sure to understand length of time on market is not a good thing for your property. We need to price it right. There are actually three markets going on at any given time, and that is you are either out of the market, in no man's land, or in the market. Out of the market's easy to find. This is where when we put your house on the market, we don't get any showings, right? In the first week, we don't have any feet in the door. We know we're simply priced too high. Because the reality is there are people looking for houses just like yours every day of the week. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, right? Certain neighborhoods, certain cities, certain school district, whatever it may be. And if they aren't even coming to look at it, it's because they have too many other options to go look at before they even want to entertain yours. So if we don't have any showings in the first week, we need to do a price reduction. The second one that's really easy to find is in the market. In the market's easy because that's the one where we get the offers. We get the feet through the door and we get offers. This typically will go under contract. We're getting great activity and will go under strong contract in less than 30 days. This one right here, though, no man's land, this is a trickier market. This is where a lot of home sellers get stuck, and this is where a lot of real estate agents do not really know how to handle it. Here's what our research and time in the industry is we've discovered. No man's land is where we feel like we're kind of doing something right. We're getting feet through the door, we're getting eyeballs on it, but yet we're not getting any offers. So what our rule of thumb is, if we have 10 showings and no offers, we're in no man's land. Because out of those 10 people, I'm not saying every single one of them's bought a house, but I can guarantee you at least half of those have. So our job is to figure out why. Is it because of price? Is it because of condition? Is it because of things we simply can't address? But ultimately, I want you to understand that the reason they're buying something else is they found a better value somewhere else. Again, it may not mean price itself, but it may mean for the price, they expect it to be in better condition, and the neighbor's house down the street was in much better showing condition, even though it might have been priced very similar to yours. Therefore, they bought it. In no man's land, all you're doing is helping sell your competitors' houses. So we're going to have a real frank conversation if we get to the point where we've had 10 showings and no offers, or on the flip side, if we go up to 2 weeks after that kind of initial flurry of activity, if we go 2 more weeks and we don't have any showings during those 2 weeks, we're going to have a conversation. Okay, so that's no man's land. And I want you to understand that goes back again, this that 10 level of honesty. We're professionals. We need to be able to have that conversation with you so you can make the right decisions for your family. The next piece in the market analysis is making sure that we start to really know our numbers. We've got this first week or two here where we can get great activity, right? Beyond that, if we don't have that activity, then we're going to need to know that we have a short window of time in order to make these adjustments. The most activity is going to happen kind of around week, the first week, when in those first 10 days. It might peak around week 2, maybe week 3, depending on the kind of market we're in, if it's a buyer's market or seller's market, and then it's going to start dying off. So we have a limited time to make that initial adjustment should we need to make an adjustment. And the next piece about strategy is really this deep dive market analysis. So let me show you what that looks like, a sample of that market analysis. So we go beyond just this regular give me 3 comps type of thing. This is an example of a property market analysis. So we get our aerial views, neighborhood views. We give a quick view off the top, what's the estimated value is for you, but really why, what goes into that? What are the home facts about it? What are the extended home facts, right? So livability scores, AARP, walk scores, indexes, access to transportation and health. How do you rank out of a possible score of 100? What's our access to certain amenities? What are our comps? How do they map within around us? What's your property history over the lifetime of this house, of this zip code, of this county, and this state? We overlay all the graph lines on that to understand truly the trends. What are the sales and financing activities in the area? What do those look like so we know we're targeting the right people? How has the last 12-month change in estimated value done? So we create a hot kind of a flare sheet to understand appreciation or depreciation and how it's impacted in areas right around you. To kind of understand this macro and micro market around you. We break it down into an estimated value per footage, neighborhood housing stats and charts. Guys, you can see that we do not take this as a traditional just comparable market analysis that most real estate agents do. This is very serious for us. We know it's one of the most valuable investments you have, and we want to make sure that we do everything we can to get you that highest value. So that is our deep dive market absorption analysis. We're going to spend a lot of time on that to make sure we really get you the right price. So next, step 4 in our 6-step process is property prep and positioning. We're going to review that diagnosis with you. We're going to decide exactly how you should take advantage of our property positioning system. Are you looking for the quickest sale with the least amount of effort, or are you looking to make the most amount of money possible, even if it means taking some time to doing the work and taking a little bit longer before we put it on the market, or sitting on the market a little bit longer. But as a team, we're going to make sure whatever level of the property preparation plan you choose, we're going to make sure we do it completely prior to even putting your home on the market. Because just as in real life, I said this earlier, but just as in real life, you only have one chance to make that good first impression. So these are some things we're going to go through as we do the walkthrough of your property diagnosis too. But what are some inexpensive little tips you can do on the exterior, interior, and for showings to make sure we present our best foot forward? Finally, on the positioning piece, the internet. Obviously, we all know the internet's a big player, but did you know that 85% of home buyers begin their search on the internet? That's a huge statistic. That's before calling me, right? They're going online. Now, a lot of them don't necessarily find it online, but they do start their research there, and then they end up connecting with an agent. So we want to make sure that we cast the biggest net possible. As a matter of fact, the Bonham Group's listing system, or TBG LS, we push your property out to more than 350 of the most popular search websites. So this is an extraordinary number. It's going to hit obviously all the big ones like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. But beyond that, we're going to hit a lot of the random ones that you may or may not be familiar with, like LandWatch, Property Shark, right? Some of these things that it only takes one buyer on that site if it's the right buyer. So we want to make sure to cast as big a net as possible. So we're going to do all the stuff we lead up to, the in-depth market analysis, the in-depth seller analysis, the deep dive absorption analysis, the property diagnosis. All of that lays the groundwork and the foundation to get us here. Because once we turn on this massive marketing machine, we need to make sure we have your property dialed in properly. The best absolute professional photographs, right? All these different things to make sure you get the right exposure at the right time to find the right buyer that's willing to pay you the right price. Now, after we've gone live, this is a biggie. This is our TBG's MSFAD cycle. And what this really is, this is the loop that's going to happen. And this is how our conversations are going to go. We're going to market the property. We're going to get feet in the door. We're going to show it. Then our job as your real estate agent is to make sure we get as much feedback as possible from every foot that went through that door. We then get together with you, we assess the feedback, and then we decide on the next step. Is it a price adjustment? Is it a condition adjustment? Is it hold tight how we're doing? We're doing things right. Right? But this MS FAD cycle here, this thing that we're going to run through, this is a Bonham Group thing that, again, we've dialed in over the years, and we've got to understand this cycle and be willing to communicate clearly and get as much feedback as possible. If we don't get an offer right out of the gate, this is going to play an important role into how our journey goes. And we've got to always be looking at this, see what stage that we're in, what stage needs to be addressed. Are there any gaps? What do we have to tighten up in order to get your house sold? And once we do this, and as we continue to do this and make sure we do continually reevaluate the property, then we're going on to step 6, which is the TBG C2C system execution. And this is really, in my opinion, where the rubber meets the road. Finding the right buyer is really just the first step in getting the contract to close, right? It's just the first step. This is usually where the intensity happens once we get into negotiations. And it is our job to protect your interests through the negotiations, through the inspections, through the appraisal, through the repair requests, through the title issues, through any financing concerns. As you can see, again, we take this business very seriously. We mind map everything. We've gotten really clear about our workflows. And this is our decision tree that we use. Once we get the contract, these things happen. Are we going yes or no, right? Then the inspection happens. Is it okay? Yes or no? What about the survey? Yes or no? Do we need to terminate the contract or negotiate and open it back up, right? What about loan approval? What about final walkthroughs? What about financing contingencies? All of these things, right? This is a continuous loop as well throughout this kind of final piece, but this is going to be the way that you can understand where are we really in this process, right? So we're going to give this to you after you hire us so that we can go back and say, hey, reference the C2C system, right? And here's where we're at right now. So what do you want to do at this point? Here's our options, right? We want you to be our partner throughout this process. We want you to always know what to expect next. And we want you to be fully educated because that's going to give us all the best results possible. So this is our 6-step home selling process or home selling system that we've developed over all these years and what's allowed us to have so many closings and so many repeat and referral clients. Showing up at the closing one-on-one is pretty straightforward, but we're going to make sure you know exactly what you can expect. During that, you'll have this sheet so you can prepare fully for it. We're going to make sure and give you our moving checklist so that starting a few weeks ahead of time, prior to closing, you can start working on all these services to make sure you're checking off everything so you don't forget anything at the last minute during this very critical time of your move. And we're also, as you can see, again, we've got tons of referrals. These are just a few of them, tons of reviews that we're happy to share with you if you want to see what our clients are saying. I think our longevity and track record oftentimes just speaks for itself, and our style and our approach and our philosophy that you can see from this presentation. But we can get you some reviews if you'd like. And then this piece too is that even after we get to closing, we really treat this as a relationship business. As I said, 90% of our business is repeat and referral. Even when the transaction's done, use us. We have built in our time in this business an amazing network of home vendors, actually of vendors in general. I don't care if it's a hairstylist or a veterinarian, right? Call us. If you have a need for anything, please reach out to us. Use us as a resource. You need movers, house cleaners, designers, painters, pest services, landscapers, handymans, anything you can think of about your house, definitely call us. But even if it's something beyond that, hey, Jeff, do you know anybody that can help out with whatever? Like I said, dog sitting, call us. We probably know somebody because we've got a massive database of past clients, and we love nothing more than connecting them so that you each have a great experience. So guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If it feels again like we are a good fit for you, if our approach resonates with you, let us know that you're planning on hiring us. Obviously just contingent on us getting on the final stage of reviewing the numbers, but the numbers are the numbers, right? So we're not making numbers up. We're not trying to sway you one way or the other. We're just going to present you with all the facts. And at that meeting, you ultimately get to decide where we price your property based on all the information you have at your fingertips. So if it looks like a good fit, you want to hire us and move forward, great. Reach back out to us. We'll come by. We'll set up the time to review your answers to the in-depth seller analysis. We'll do the value maximizer property diagnosis, walk through with you there, and sit down and review the deep dive market absorption analysis, make a decision, and move forward. So thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you for investing the time to watch this presentation, and we look forward to helping you get your home sold.